Hello there, you beautiful soul. Welcome back to another Culture Talks segment with your host and founder of Cultured Society. I am here with another special guest that I recently had the opportunity to meet through our social media platforms, the lovely Facebook, that gives us an opportunity to connect with people globally. And it's such an amazing tool that we could use to connect with people during this time where a lot of people are going into isolation mode and not really connecting fully and deeply with others that are maybe aligned with the work that we're currently doing or that need the services that we're currently offering. So the purpose of Cultured Society is it's almost like a culture school where we bring multicultural diversity onto this platform to give the opportunity for so many people that are on this planet operating to thrive and to allow people to thrive in their own arenas as well. And all the people that I've brought on this platform are people that I've met through my journey, through my different moves, through my career paths, and also that are just inspiring others to level up in every area of their life. So today I have Christy Johnson, who is a multi-passionate entrepreneur, Christ follower, boy mama, wifey, and health beauty enthusiast. Her and her husband live in Queen Creek, Arizona, with their 2 boys and 3 dogs. She is a CEO and certified health coach and Healthy Ever After coaching and owner, licensed esthetician and brow rehab specialist at Fire and Fawn Salon in Arizona. Through extensive training and experience, she assists others in creating health and wellness through clean nutrition, personal development, and emotional management. Christy leads you into becoming the bold babe you are meant to be through bomb brows, better habits, and holistic beauty. With this, I welcome the beautiful Christy Johnson. Thank you so much for joining me on this conversation today, Christy.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for such a wonderful introduction. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so great because although we've never met in person, I had the opportunity to live in Arizona for the last 5 years, and our paths just crossed. And it's just so interesting how that happens because, you know, you can align with people in through different platforms if you're open to the idea of just authentically connecting. And if you have not had the time to join us on these conversations, I have put together a series of questions that are actually all the same for every single panel of guests that comes onto this platform. However, the conversation has been completely different and unique every single time, which has made these conversations so fun to be a part of. I believe that during this time, it's really important not only to share our gifts with the world through the work that we're doing in our career path, but also to talk about life philosophies and experiences, because through those conversations, we're able to inspire each other to do the very thing that we were brought to this earth to do. So with this, I introduce this conversation of life philosophies and experiences. So my first question to you, Christy, is what is your life's philosophy?
Yeah, so I was thinking a little bit about this, and I think in a nutshell, I would just say really that our purpose in life is to really live a life of servitude, right? And to learn how to be open and curious so that we can love others well, as Christ has loved us. And so I really, over the years, have focused on being able to grow in doing that.
That is great. And, you know, service is where we usually find our purpose. And oftentimes we're seeking so many other avenues when in reality, we find it in the service of others. First, finding it within ourselves, being able to really understand fully who we are, and then being able to selflessly give that to others. And how would you say that that philosophy has evolved over the years?
Well, my mom was a wonderful role model of this. She just loves so well and is so intentional in what she does, whether it's for me as her daughter or someone she has just met. Like she's always just giving in such a way. And so it started at a young age of seeing that, and then really understanding, as you get into your 20s, you're a little more self-involved because you haven't experienced as much of the world. And so really after getting married and having kids and coming into my own, I noticed like I needed to be more open and curious. I went to Africa in 2010, and that really influenced being more open to understanding that the world is not just what it is here. A lot of people don't have that opportunity to travel to other places. And when you go to a third world country, you really see that so many people are 100% joyous in their love for life with not really having much. And so tapping into that, like, how can I be grateful for what I have in front of me and not be looking for more? And then how can I help others see that first within themselves and then be able to give that to others? And then with that, just recently understanding like personal development through having mentorship and coaching, someone to go before you to show you how to grow into that, to really live above the line.
I
Mhm.
really love that you said that because oftentimes in our society, we're so confined to the parameters that we live in,
Mhm.
and we don't really give ourselves the opportunities to go outside of that, to really see that one, our world is so large, yet there's like 1 degree of separation, right? Like
Yeah.
we're all very similar. And
Mhm.
when you have the opportunity to travel outside of that, especially to a third world country,
Mhm.
you're able to see that we really don't need much, one.
Yeah.
And that oftentimes, especially here in America, we're so consumed by consumerism that we don't really get the opportunity to see outside of that.
Yeah.
So where are you originally from? If
Yeah, I grew up in Colorado, so Colorado Springs.
okay.
Yeah. And then
And
we've
so
lived in Arizona for about 8 years.
nice. And have you had the opportunity to travel a lot aside from Africa?
Within the States, I've traveled some. Africa is definitely the furthest I've ever gone. And we hope eventually in the next year or so, depending on how things open up, to go to the Philippines. One to visit family, but also really to do a mission trip while we're there too and serve.
So was your focus for going to Africa, was that mission work as well?
It was, yeah, it was through Adventures in Missions. And so they are a Christian-based organization, and we went to Swaziland. And so 40% of the population at the time is HIV positive and just living with not very much. And so we went there for a few weeks to one of like the mission bases and worked with children and got to fix up some areas and just pray for people in the community, hold a church service. Um, Really that joy, like that overwhelming, like hearing other people just worship and like love when you're like in a house with no floor and like surrounded by just wilderness. Like it was
Yes.
amazing. Like there's nothing in my life that has ever come close to it. And like you said, like there's that 1 degree separation where we all need the same basic things. And so to be able to take away like all of the consumerism around you and separate yourself from that and just go love and be with other people and sit with them is, I really hope everyone has the opportunity to do something like that, whether it's here stateside or being able to travel worldwide. Mhm.
Absolutely. And you know what? You don't have to leave the
Mhm.
country to find that because there's so many people in need, especially after what happened through COVID.
Mhm.
There's so many people that lost their homes, lost their jobs, and within our own neighborhood, there's so much need for us to be able to go out there and serve. So I'm really happy to hear that you are doing that type of work because it's so needed. So you had mentioned that you have embraced the realm of personal development
Mhm.
and coaching, and you do that as well. So
Mhm.
how has your circle of influence impacted the way that you think and live today, considering that you're now in that arena and even prior to that?
Yeah, well, I think as women, like it's really easy to run the race and run on empty and forget to really invest in ourselves. And so it first started with me, like taking a step back and being like, okay, where do I need to grow and better understand myself? And by allowing other people to speak into me, I was able to recognize where emotionally maybe I was not playing fair, within my own life, or falling into like victimhood, or putting people in a villain or hero. It's like the drama triangle, and falling into that. And so by allowing myself to take a step back and take a sip of water, so to speak, and look at each situation like, okay, what's going on here? Where is the other person coming from? How am I handling my own emotions? And then being able to speak to that with coaching other people of like, hey, like this is where you're contending, but why? Like, what is the root cause of that? And so I think when we are more introspective, it helps us with that outward look on things to understand what's first going on in here and what's deep rooted. And so my mentorship team actually is some family or some friends that I met in California around the same time that I went on that mission trip, and then reconnected them almost a decade later. And so to have someone who had been separated from the season of life that I was in come back into my life and say, hey, I've gone before you in this area, spoke volumes. And then honestly, like that love and just willingness to cheer you on no matter where you're at, where you're going, with being progressive over perfect, has been huge as well.
That is great. That is great. And it's always so important for us to surround ourselves with like-minded individuals, especially when we're going through different phases of our life, because every phase is going to up-level us in so many different ways, where oftentimes we will, and not intentionally, but leave behind people, right? And so there's always going to be a different phase that we need to be in front and surrounded by people that are going to continue to inspire change, because we're a never-ending evolution. And it's so important for us to continue to be a part of that. Now, do you believe that your line of work infects our society with positivity, and how so?
Definitely, being in the beauty industry for the last like 12 years, the beauty industry could go either way, right? Like it can be a really positive thing, and then it can be kind of an unrealistic thing depending on how it's being presented. And so with founding Fire and Fawn Salon, really my purpose was to say, hey, like you can be girly and edgy, you can be conservative yet a little sassy, all of these things that you encompass. You don't have to be just one thing. You can really freely express yourself in a safe space. So I've worked really hard to create that space through my part of the beauty industry, and then speak to that. And then with coaching, really being able to come alongside someone and recognize where we are the same, but we're different, and cheer them along in, hey, like what's 1% different today than yesterday? Like what's one more thing we can do today and work on? What's the one thing that you're celebrating today that's better than it was yesterday? And then building upon that to create overall positive change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so great. And I'm really glad that you mentioned that about the beauty industry, because you're right. It can go both ways. It could be a very superficial place to be, where we're just focused on the exterior. But in reality, beauty is an internal thing. And what you're doing with teaching people about nutrition, holistic nutrition, and focusing more so on the inner beauty, which reflects the outer beauty, that is just a bonus of what it is that you're teaching. And that is definitely very positive. So I'm happy to hear that you're in that space where you're teaching women to embrace that within themselves, and holding their hand along the way as they accept who they are, while they become more beautiful externally.
Yeah.
So do you believe that the work that you do every day is aligned with your calling and higher purpose?
It has been amazing to see really how God has used this vehicle to introduce me to people in all different seasons of life and walks of life, and be able to be entrusted with their journey. I have always felt like I wanted to help other people in a positive way, and then sometimes in a people-pleasing way, right? So to find the balance in that, and to be able to really be equipped to empower other people instead of enabling them, has been such a blessing over these last few years. And then with the beauty industry, like honestly, having someone in your chair and just being able to hear the cry of their heart, whatever they're going through, whether it's like sitting down to get your hair done or they're laying on a bed to get a facial, like people just open up. And so to have that seed of trust warms my heart and totally feels like a mission field of a sort.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'm sure that you have so many people from different walks of life mm-hmm. coming through your doors. Mm-hmm. Did you always know that you were going to do this type of work?
I was reflecting a lot on that, like looking over, some of this conversation and what I wanted to share. And when I was younger, I wanted to be a teacher. And so it's really interesting what gets put on your heart when you're a child, right? And where it's not a traditional form of teaching, like being able to teach someone how to love themselves has been amazing. So while I didn't always know that this would be it, I definitely wanted to serve in some way for most of my life.
That's good. And, teaching is something that everybody tends to do. We just don't realize that we do it, especially when we go through our own journey. And I'm sure having children has been such a game changer for you, and having the patience to be able to teach, because I think it's one of those things where we develop the patience through experience and through, I think I had mentioned to you in our last conversation that I had the opportunity to work with kids in one of my transitions, a few of my transitions, actually. It seems I always go working back with kids, but being a mother, I can imagine, can teach you just different levels of having the ability to teach and to be able to teach anybody, right?
Oh my gosh. And it teaches you so much about yourself, like, and your own habits and how you react to things, and where you're like, oh, like that's me, like right there running around for a little while. Like, how do I help that so that we can make it positive? Being a mom it's so many different levels of learning about yourself and how to teach other people and how to take a step back and recognize emotionally and mentally how someone's developing.
Absolutely. And how do you implement your services with your beauty service, the coaching and the beauty? How does it all work?
How does it all blend together? Or great question. So, there are a lot of times where they will marry together, and I'll be able to partner with a client on both areas. With coaching, I do it remotely as well. So I have clients in Germany, I have clients in New York, like, so all over. So in that aspect, while I can't be hands-on beauty wise, we do utilize consultations, products, things like that. And so they'll marry in that way. But what I have found, so I used to change my hair every 6 weeks. Like, my mom was a hairstylist. And a lot of women that I've talked to, the more in tune they are with themselves, the less they change themselves outwardly. And not to say that it's a bad thing to do that, because it's a lot of fun to, like, I am very passionate about that, but it's been really interesting to see where that correlated together. So what I've recognized recently with my local clients is the more they become in tune with themselves, the more natural that we end up going with their beauty as they're evolving, which has just been really fun to see. Some still are really spunky naturally. So like changing their hair or changing something about themselves is really normal for them. And then others, it's like they're truly coming into themselves. And so they want to be more authentic with how they were created. And it's been really fun to see it come together that way.
That's so interesting that you said that, because it's so true. I think that the evolution, especially through our 20s, is we're experimenting, we're trying to find ourselves, we're, doing a lot of different things. I know personally, I went through like a journey of self-discovery where I did the exact same thing you did, where I was constantly changing my hair, changing my looks. And then as I got into my 30s and I started to learn so much more about myself, same thing. I went super natural. And do you tend to work with a lot more women in their, like, what is the age range that you work with?
In the salon, I would say 30s to maybe early 50s. So middle-aged women. I do have some younger women, but typically they've come in with their moms and then evolved and grown a little bit and continue to see me. And then with coaching, it's honestly like all different walks of life. My husband was in law enforcement for the last decade. And so we have a handful of officers or their family that we've been able to help, our own friends and family, people I went to high school with, just like as your circle of influence kind of spreads out and you meet people. So I wouldn't say there's one type of person with coaching. That's really been unique. But with being in the salon, on average, it's more middle-aged women that are looking to really invest in themselves in that way.
Nice. Well, so with all of the work that you do, oftentimes we tend to exert so much energy because we're always giving, giving, giving.
Right.
And we all recognize that in order for us to be able to selflessly give, we need to be able to pour into ourselves first. So with that being said, what practices do you implement in your daily life to continue to stay grounded and divinely connected to yourself and your creator?
Yeah, great question. So I think it is so important to take that time in the morning. We created a great patio space outside since the weather here in Arizona, 80% of the time is beautiful. To separate myself from everyone and go outside and sit for a while. And for me, either listening to worship music or being in the word and grounding myself in that way. I also, with some of my coaches, have been working on writing out affirmations for what I would like to create in my life. And so taking time to read those and meditate on them before getting through the whole day. So on a perfect day, I'm able to take 30 minutes and do that. On a day that isn't so perfect, I fit it in closer to the end of the day, but really making sure to take that time out and go sit and be alone. And then investing in time in putting back in yourself too when it comes to like getting your hair done or going myself and like getting my nails done. My husband and I went on a date today. So really taking that time out to fill back in not only my own cup, but within my relationship as well.
Absolutely. That's so important. And I know that because I'm not married and I don't have any children yet.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there are so many women out there that would love to understand what it's like to be able to blend all the things that you do with still being a mother, a wife, a business owner, and doing all the things. Do you have like a specific schedule that you follow every single day? And is your husband very aligned with that schedule? Is he very flexible with that?
So we are in a transition period in life where we are kind of coming together again in our schedule. I started working for myself 2 years ago, and my husband was still very much full-time law enforcement and on call. So really it was like creating my own schedule for myself and the kids and then like fitting him in when he was home, because with that type of job with first responders, like that comes first. He left law enforcement in November and came home and started his own business. And so not a very simple answer this time around, but we do coordinate our calendars so that we can block out time and put those rocks in our schedule, so to speak. So for myself, that personal time in the morning, we got back into like doing at least a day where we have blocked time to spend time together. And then it's really important for me at the end of the day to have time with the kids, to read to them or cuddle and watch a movie, whatever they need to fill their cup back up. So in that way, I had to learn the hard way by not having had any of that time and getting kind of to that place of emptiness and feeling like I'm trying to tread water, and reaching out for help and investing in my own coach to then move forward and say, okay, how do I fill my own cup and put my own mask on first every day so that I can be there for my husband and be there for my kids. And so really it just starts with that little bit. Take a 30-minute break for yourself throughout the day and then build upon that by recognizing what's important to you, putting that in your schedule first, and then everything else around it.
Absolutely. That's so good. That's so good. And I think regardless if you're single or married,
Right.
that's something that you definitely should always incorporate in your daily routine, because if you don't have a regimen, oftentimes your day will run you.
Totally.
Especially having kids and having all the responsibilities that we have to take care of other people, which is what we normally do as women. We always nurture other people. And so what words of wisdom would you give to those seeking a deeper understanding of themselves, Christy?
First, just make the decision, right? Like if you're wanting to grow, like once you are like, okay, I am ready. So make the decision to move forward in your own health or to move forward in finding that inner self. And then find someone that's gone before you and reach out and ask for that help. To have them walk alongside you as you continue to grow. And then the best part is being able to find someone to bring along to who maybe isn't there yet that you can then mentor.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That is so good.
Mhm.
Do you believe that, because you had mentioned earlier that you are in a transitionary period, but aren't we
Mhm.
always?
Oh my gosh. Forever. I'm like, the whole schedule thing, I'm a little bit more of a free spirit. So I'll get it down and then something in life changes. And so I think being adaptable and just understanding that like life's going to continue to throw things at you. And so to see where you can rearrange those things. Because yes, we're always in a transition period. Once you think you're not, something new starts.
That that is so true. And I mean, we are literally, we can see that, especially in
Mhm.
2020, where nobody really expected what happened last year.
Yeah.
What would you say was your biggest aha or biggest learning like moment
Mhm.
in 2020?
Biggest learning moment. Honestly, I'm very grateful. So 2019 was our year where everything kind of at the beginning of the year fell apart for us. And so we spent a lot of time the year before finding ourselves and understanding what we needed so that when everything closed down, outside of my kids being home and having to really recognize what they needed differently from me, I didn't have a lot of transition in that way because I had made that transition the year before. My biggest learning point would just be that isolation and recognizing the importance of when we're not seeing people in person, taking more time to have conversations like this or to connect in new ways. We were very involved in sports and church and classes and on the go. And so while it was really nice to have a breath of fresh air, it also helped us recognize where we could fill that cup in our home, reaching out even with our children so that we're making sure that we're not isolating. So I think a lot of people, not, I don't think, I know a lot of people have fallen into that, even going into 2021, where it's so comfortable to be at home and working from home that we're not reaching out and something is missing. And so recognizing that and being more open to meeting people that I would have never crossed paths with before.
Yes, that is so important.
Mhm.
It's so interesting that you say that 2019 was the year that really brought a lot of maybe chaos and havoc
Mhm.
and really introduced you to 2020 where you were ready for it. Because the more that I talk to people, the more I recognize that that's what a lot of people experienced in 2019. I know that that was definitely the year where I experienced a lot of rocky moments,
Mhm.
and it really taught me the importance of adaptability,
Yeah.
and that regardless of where we are in our life, there's always going to be disruptions.
Mhm.
And, having that opportunity or even having that openness to be willing to reach out to people, because oftentimes people are not talking about what they're experiencing, the struggles that they're experiencing,
Mhm.
especially on platforms like social media or like Facebook, Instagram. Like nobody really talks about those moments that they're having that cause us to retreat and go into
Mhm.
isolation mode, and oftentimes doesn't allow us to even get out of what we're experiencing.
Right.
So being able to connect with people authentically, even if it's in ways that you never imagined to, like, and you actually, so Christy reached out to me
Mhm.
via Facebook, and we ended up having a Zoom conference prior to this conversation. And this was what inspired me to even ask her to have this conversation, because I do this a lot, but I noticed that a lot of people that are not in the arena of coaching or the platforms
Mhm.
that we're on right now don't
Yeah.
really do that, and it is kind of uncomfortable. So, I just thought it was so amazing that Christy has stepped out of the parameters of where she lived in, or even her comfort zone, right? To step out and to meet people that maybe are aligned, because she didn't even know, what I was doing. And you never know what's going to happen, the type of connections that you're going to have. And these are so important because we have the opportunity, again, with the 0 degrees of separation. It's like, yes, this world is so big, yet it's so small, and we can find common ground with just about anyone.
Yep. Yeah. I would say that's my second learning point from last year. So with my husband leaving law enforcement, he didn't really have social media. And so he started to grow his social media presence and was like adding people from the department that maybe he was one of 6 on a K-9 unit. And so in a huge department where he may not have known everyone, they would have come in contact with him if they needed something. And in a matter of a week, he had like grown his friends like immensely, and we met a lot of people that way and had conversations that we never would have had the opportunity to. And so I got to watch him go before me in that way, which was so interesting, because where I thought I had grown a little bit outside of the box in that area, I recognized I was still kind of nervous to be like, well, what if I add that person and I don't know them, or like what, and so it's really interesting to see like who we can learn from in our own lives, whether they're really close to us. And that's something I wouldn't have ever expected from him. But it made me think, oh, like I can do that too. Like if he can do it, and like he didn't have a Facebook at the beginning of the year and wasn't talking to anyone, like because of the nature of his job, why not reach out and have conversations in that way?
Has he been a more introverted person than you have?
He is in his own way. I'm actually really introverted. Like I would love to stay home, and like I would have before been more prone to stay home, throw on a pair of sweats and just hang out. And over the last few years and kind of coming into myself, have gotten out more. So he's a little bit more of a homebody, and it's been really amazing to, in the 2 years that I've been coaching, see how that's ripple effect out into him and like his dreaming and what he wanted to do. And he had an amazing career. And it was really cool to see him have that pivot point of, what else could I do? Like I've learned a lot where I'm at, and I've gotten to the peak of where I could be in my career. And instead of staying and floating there, because that wouldn't have been wrong, it would have been a great decision too. He was like, I'd like to learn more. And he was like, I'm going to branch out. And he was a canine handler. And so now he's a trainer. So he decided to start his own business too, and really reach out and be in contact with people more. And so it's been really fun to see how that's rippled out in our own relationship and in his personality, and then into our kids too. And honestly, throughout our whole family, which isn't something that we would have ever expected 2 years ago at our breaking point, just thinking, okay, I need to figure out how to fix me and like work on me so that I can move forward in life, and how that really rippled out into everything else.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And I mean, I'm sure, being in a relationship has its challenges, and the fact that you two have been able to evolve together and to step into different arenas and be able to support each other, that definitely, I'm sure, has brought you closer, right?
Yeah, it has. Yeah. And it's that area of transition where maybe there's contention, but learning how to contend well for each other, and really looking at where the other person is coming from. And one of the things with being in a law enforcement family is that life is so much different than living with someone that works a 9 to 5. And so that evolution and being able to come alongside other families in that way, talk about things and how to emotionally work through things, has been really powerful, not only in our own relationship, but being able to say, hey, I see you, and it's okay. And like, this is how we're going to start to work through these things, because for such a selfless career, it just brings so much with it. And a lot of people don't see that.
You're right. You're right. So this week I had the opportunity to connect with a woman. Her name's Bonnie Maley, and I've been working with her for the month of March. And every week we've done a different segment. This week was a talk about building healthy relationships. And
Mhm.
it's so interesting because every relationship dynamic is so different, whether you're in your career, whether you're in a friendship, whether you're in a marriage. But at the end of the day, they kind of blend together because when we're always working with different types of people, different characteristics, different personalities, different career paths. But at the end of the day, we have the opportunity to really come together, accept accept ourselves first, be able to accept the other person for where they are in their evolution and be able to build something together. Because working with another person, when there's two or three gathered, there is so much opportunity to create so much more magic, right?
Yeah. Coming together and just know, while we all have a lot of similarities, no one person is the same as the other, right? So recognizing other people's creativity and their own passions and their gifts and what their strengths are, and maybe where their weaknesses are and where someone else's strengths are, and how that marries together, whether it's inside your own home with your family, or like you're saying, in a career path, or really anywhere that you go, you're going to get to see that. And I think the difference is just being open to it, being open to see what other people are going to bring to the table, and where you can fit into that.
Yes. Yes, Christy, oh my gosh, this was so amazing to, be able to conversate with you and to see where you are and what you're doing in your life. Because although I'd like to say that there are a lot of people that are doing this type of work, there's still so much room for growth within all of us to be able to step into our own power, to our own giftings, and to our own divinity, because each and every single one of us has a specific DNA code. We are all a part of one body in Christ.
Mhm.
We're designed with very similar components, even though we're male and female, whether we come from different backgrounds, whether we come from different types of upbringings and economic, there's just so many things that maybe we think that separate us, but in reality, we all want the same thing.
Mhm.
We all want to be validated. And as a matter of fact, you know what? I forgot this one question. I skipped over it. So I'm actually going to go back before we end up finalizing this, because
Of
I think this is really important. But how do you stay relevant, unique, and true to who you are as a person?
Yeah. So really, it's by recognizing where I'd like to move forward. And then we were actually joking because we went to the store earlier and my niece is 14. And so we were talking about like what's cool right now and what's not. So to be relevant, just really recognizing the different trends, especially being in the beauty industry, with what people are doing and what's great in that area. And then being true to myself, recognizing what's okay and what's not okay. If I want to wear my hair, to the side. I think the side part, right? That's a whole big thing right now, like not having a side part, but just recognizing what fits with what I believe in and what doesn't, and realizing that it's okay. Like you don't need to be like everyone else. You don't have to be on trend. And then just continuing to move forward in personal development and reading books by other entrepreneurs and other Christian authors. I'm reading Bob Goff right now, Dream Big, and just where you can be more open.
Yes, 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 yes. That is so good. That goes along the lines of what I was talking
Mhm.
about, how although, we all want to be recognized and we all want to be validated, it's really important that we recognize ourselves and recognize our own unique giftings and show up as that. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing around you, because everybody's doing what they know best for themselves, what they're supposed to be doing for themselves. And as long as you're showing up as your own unique self, which is what's needed, because again, we are all a part of one body in Christ, but we all come to this planet with our own specific DNA code to be unique in
Mhm.
everything that we do. So with that, Christy, do you have any finishing statements before we end this segment?
Just to be you, to be 100% bold and embody who you are, and know that you have been gifted exactly the way that God has created you, whether you're too loud for some people, too quiet for some people, whatever your too much is, that's exactly who you are supposed to be.
Yes, yes. Thank you again, Christy, for joining us on this conversation that is so important during this time, because we are all here. We are all important. We are all valuable. We all have something to give to this world. And as long as we're here and breathing, that's really the purpose that we need to fulfill. And so I'm so grateful for this time that we had to spend together. Thank you to every person who is going to join us on this conversation. Please take the time to like, share, subscribe to this channel as we continue to bring on unique souls that are gifting so many valuable tools to this planet. Thank you, and may you be blessed always.